This is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints with Father Nathan Cromly.
Hey, thanks for having me back again. I'm glad to be back with you. I want to share with you something about the life of Simon Peter, St. Peter, right, from the Bible, that often we kind of overlook. And that we focus a lot of times on Simon Peter's innocent kind of bumblings, right? Or the times where he just seems to take missteps and do the thing that was erstwhile and perhaps sincere and yet a little bit misguided. And yet that's only part of the picture. There's a whole nother aspect of Simon Peter's life that literally takes our breath away. He was a witness to the glory of Christ in many different occasions. And I want to speak about that because it's astounding to think that in the way that Jesus prepared him for his role that he was to play as the leader of the church and as his witness in front of the powers that be in Rome, that he would prepare Simon Peter by allowing him to glimpse some of the glory that was laid up in Jesus Christ. Because I think that Jesus does the same with us. Just as he trained Peter to be this great witness in the world, I think he trains us in the same way. I mean, not exactly the same pattern, but the Lord does everything intentionally. Okay, so if he did this with Simon Peter, he's revealing the way that he works with his leaders. And of course, the other apostles follow a similar suit. That's because it's just important for each one of us to not lose sight of the glory towards which we're tending. A Christian doesn't lead just as an act of pure service in a servile way. We act as an act of service with hope in our hearts for the glory that is to come. We live in this world with our eyes and our hearts on the next. And that is, we are glory bound. And we can't forget that because it transforms everything that we do. The words that we say, the choices that we make, they're not just focused on things that will then eventually pass away or memories that will fade or events that are inconsequential. No. Even though so much of the life of our Christian is spent amongst the things that will pass and yes, doing difficult, normal, day-to-day hidden tasks, the love with which we do them is never inconsequential. The love with which we do them is God's gift to the world. And that love is then expressed through those things, making those things shine with a light of glory. This is why it's so important for each one of us to remember into the times when in our own life, God has allowed us to see some of that glory. Maybe it was on the first smile of your firstborn son. Maybe it was in the radiant gaze of your spouse as she came down the aisle towards you or as you made your vows on your wedding day. Maybe it's in the glistening of the natural world that's around you and the beautiful sound of the wind in the trees. Maybe it's in the starlit night or the laughter of friends around a campfire. If we allow ourselves to see it, God is constantly shining his light into this world. From the power of preaching to the wonderful inspirational examples of a great story. The fact is, Christians have the right to keep their heads above water. We do not have to succumb to the temptation of thinking that this world is futile and that this life is meaningless ever. On the contrary, we owe it to the world to bear witness to them, to the great love that God has for this world and the glory that's spent up for us and the life that is to come. This is an example that Simon Peter gave us in his own life. If you look at all the reasons Peter would have had to despair, there are many, many reasons. He was in a very static economy and in a low place in that economy. His life would have been filled with the smells and the sounds of fishing every day without stop. His country was occupied by a foreign power. His local authorities were corrupt in many different ways. I mean, what does Simon Peter have going for him? Well, amongst many things, he had this, that he was the witness of Christ transfigured on Mount Tabor. He saw his eyes shining like lightning. He saw his clothes whiter than any white that the world could ever produce. He saw Jesus shimmering in glorious light and heard the voice of the Father testify to him. He was the witness of Jesus when Jesus raised people from the dead 3 different times. He was present at Cana when Jesus showed his glory for the first time. This is important in the life of each one of us as we try to lead in our world today. Don't lose sight of the glory that God shows you, the way that he's breaking through the din and the shadows with a glorious message of hope. This world is in his hand and his mercy endures forever.